My baby shower was perfect until my sister handed me a gift box full of shredded money. "You don't deserve it anyway," she said. I smiled, because I had just stopped transferring her monthly allowance. I should have seen it coming. Hi, Reddit. I'm Emily, 32 years old, a financial analyst, and about to become a mom for the first time. You'd think that at this point in my life, my biggest concerns would be prenatal vitamins and assembling a crib, not dealing with my sister's drama. But no. Laura, my younger sister, 26, has always had a flair for theatrics. And by theatrics, I mean making every single thing about herself. My wedding? She cried because I was getting married before she was. My first promotion? She called me a sellout for working a corporate job while she was still figuring things out. And now my baby shower? Of course, she had to find a way to ruin that too. The day had been perfect. My best friend Sarah hosted it at her place, pastel decorations, cupcakes with little teddy bears on top, laughter echoing through the house. My husband, Matt, was chatting with my parents, and for the first time in months, I actually felt happy. Until Laura handed me her gift. It was a medium-sized box, wrapped in gold paper with a neat silver ribbon. Fancy. Suspiciously fancy. I hesitated for a second, but with everyone watching, I forced a polite smile and untied the ribbon. I lifted the lid and froze. Inside was a pile of shredded cash. Hundreds of tiny, torn-up bills. Like someone had fed money through a paper shredder and dumped it in a box. I blinked. Maybe my pregnancy brain was making me hallucinate. But no, this was real. And Laura? She was smirking. "You don't deserve it anyway," she said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. The air went thick with stunned silence. My mother gasped. My best friend's jaw dropped. Someone knocked over a glass. My husband immediately stepped forward, but I lifted a hand to stop him. I looked at Laura, looked at the shredded money, then back at her. And I smiled. Because what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that last week, I had finally stopped transferring her monthly allowance. And this was her tantrum. I exhaled slowly and set the box down on the table. Then I turned to Laura, tilting my head. "Wow," I said. "That's creative." Laura's smirk faltered. She was expecting tears, outrage, something dramatic. I just kept smiling. "This must have taken so much effort," I added, picking up a handful of shredded bills and letting them fall through my fingers. "Did you do this yourself, or did you make your boyfriend do it?" A ripple of laughter moved through the room. My best friend covered her mouth, hiding a smirk. Even my mother looked like she was holding back a comment. Laura's face turned red. I just thought. "No, I know what you thought." I cut her off, my voice still calm, still too nice. "You thought this would embarrass me. That you'd ruin my baby shower. But really, Laura? This just proves I made the right choice." Her eyes flickered with confusion. "What?" I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice just enough to make her really listen. "You noticed the money stopped, didn't you?" Her eyes widened. "Yeah," she noticed. And that's when I knew I had one. Laura's face went pale. She blinked rapidly, processing what I had just said. The room was dead silent. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Even my mom, who usually rushed to Laura's defense, was frozen in place. Laura let out a sharp, breathy laugh. "Wait, are you joking?" I shrugged. "Nope," she scoffed, crossing her arms. "You cut me off? Just like that?" "Yep." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Then, her expression twisted into rage. "You have no right." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My husband, Matt, took a step closer to me, his whole body tense. My best friend, Sarah, actually giggled under her breath. She lived for drama, and this was peak entertainment. I just tilted my head. "Really? That's all you've got?" Laura clenched her fists, shaking with fury. "I needed that money, Emily." "Oh!" I arched an eyebrow. "For what, exactly?" "Because from what I remember, you don't pay rent. Mom and Dad let you live at home for free. You don't have any bills. I paid off your credit card debt last year. And you definitely don't have a job, because the last time I asked, you were too busy finding yourself to work. The color drained from her face. The truth hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Then came the explosion. You owe me, she shrieked, slamming her hand on the table so hard that the cupcakes trembled. You have everything. A husband, a house, a baby on the way. And I worked for it, I cut in sharply. Every single thing I have, I earned. I didn't sit around waiting for someone to hand it to me. Laura was breathing heavily, her whole body shaking with rage. You've always thought you were better than me. No, I said calmly. You always thought I was better than you. That's the real issue, isn't it? Dead silence. Laura opened her mouth, then shut it. Her face was burning red now, and I could see the cracks forming. The reality was sinking in. For the first time in her life, she wasn't getting what she wanted. And she couldn't handle it. Suddenly, she spun around, locking eyes with our mom. Mom, say something. I turned to Mom too, curious to see what she'd do. She hesitated. For the first time, she hesitated. Usually, she'd jump in immediately, scolding me for upsetting Laura, smoothing things over like always. But now, she looked embarrassed. Like she had finally realized how ridiculous Laura was acting. Well, Mom started awkwardly. Maybe we should all just... Oh, stop it, Laura snapped at her. The entire room sucked in a collective breath. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. And that was it. That was the moment Laura screwed herself. Because for the first time in forever, our mom didn't defend her. I turned back to Laura, my smile growing. Wow, you're really just burning every bridge today, huh? She screamed. An actual, full-blown, toddler-level scream of frustration. Then, she grabbed the gift box full of shredded money and threw it at me. I barely flinched as the confetti-like pieces fluttered to the floor around me. That was when Matt stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. Laura, you need to leave. She whipped her head toward him. Stay out of this. Not happening. His voice was low. Dangerous. You just threw something at my pregnant wife. Get out. Laura's eyes darted around the room, searching for someone to back her up. No one did. Not Mom. Not Dad. Not even our relatives, who usually stayed neutral in our fights. She was alone. And she knew it. Her breath came in short, angry puffs. Then, with a final huff, she turned on her heel and stormed out. The moment the front door slammed behind her, the tension in the room snapped like a rubber band. Sarah burst into laughter. Oh my goodness. That was the best baby shower ever. Matt sighed, wrapping an arm around me. Are you okay? I exhaled, shaking off the adrenaline. More than okay. I looked down at the shredded money scattered around my feet. Then I grinned. Because for the first time in my life, I was finally free. Laura had always been dramatic, but this was new. My baby shower ended earlier than expected. Guests stayed long enough to make sure I was okay, and after some reassurances, most of them headed out, still whispering about what had just happened. My mom and dad lingered, awkwardly helping clean up, while Matt stayed glued to my side like a bodyguard. Sarah, of course, stayed too, because if there was even a chance of more drama, she wasn't going to miss it. I was sweeping up the shredded money when Mom finally spoke. You know, she said hesitantly, Laura was just upset. She didn't mean any of that. I paused, then slowly looked up at her. Mom. She literally threw a box at me. Mom waved a hand dismissively. She wasn't aiming at you. Sarah let out a snort so loud it nearly made me laugh. Mom, I said carefully, I know you want to smooth things over, but I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. Mom sighed. She's just been struggling lately. Struggling with what? I cut in. Not having unlimited access to my bank account anymore. She's your sister, Mom said, as if that was a complete argument. I exhaled. Mom, I love you. But Laura isn't my responsibility. And after today, I'm done. For a second, Mom looked genuinely offended. Like I had just said I was leaving the family forever. Don't be so harsh, she said. You know she has trouble managing things on her own. Maybe it's time she learned, I said. Dad, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly cleared his throat. Emily has a point. I nearly dropped the broom. Mom turned to him, stunned. What? Dad shrugged. Laura's grown. She needs to figure things out herself. Mom looked like she had just witnessed a glitch in the universe. Dad never took sides. I, on the other hand, wanted to hug him. Mom let out a deep breath, shaking her head. Fine, do whatever you want. And with that, she grabbed her purse and walked out. I turned to Dad, still in shock. Did that just happen? He chuckled. I think I've spent enough years watching her manipulate you. Maybe it's time she learned how the real world works. And just like that, I realized I had gained an ally. Laura strikes back. I should have known Laura wouldn't let this go. That night, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. I glanced at the screen. Laura. I let it ring. 5 minutes later, another call. Then a text. You ruined my life today. I sighed and showed Matt. He skimmed the message and shrugged. Just block her. Not yet, I muttered. I want to see how far she'll take this. A minute later, another text popped up. Mom and Dad are disgusted with you. I smirked. Nice try, Laura. Then another one. You should be ashamed. I've always been there for you, and this is how you treat me. I actually laughed out loud. She's always been there for me? Sarah, who was still at my house sipping tea on the couch, snorted. That's rich. Matt just shook his head. Let it go, Em. You don't owe her a response. He was right. I put my phone on silent and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to 23 missed calls and a string of unhinged messages. I skimmed through them. At first, she was angry. You don't even deserve that baby. You think you're so much better than me? You're pathetic. Then, the guilt trips. I needed your help and you abandoned me. You don't even care what happens to me. Then, the threats. I hope you enjoy your perfect little life, because one day, you're going to need me. And I'll remember this. And finally, the desperation. Emily. Please. I'm sorry. Just call me. Classic Laura. I put my phone down and sighed. She's spiraling. Matt, still half asleep, peeked at the screen. Did she apologize yet? Well, she said sorry, I said. Right after saying I don't deserve my baby. Yeah, that's not an apology. Sarah, who had crashed on my couch, groaned as she sat up. Please tell me you're not even considering calling her. I shook my head. No chance. But apparently, ignoring Laura wasn't enough. Because 2 hours later, she showed up at my house. The doorbell rang. Matt and I exchanged looks. Sarah peeked through the window. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I walked to the door and opened it just enough to see her. What are you doing here? Laura's eyes were puffy, like she had been crying all night. Her hair was a mess, and she was still wearing yesterday's clothes. I need to talk to you, she said, voice shaking. I sighed. Laura, I don't have the energy for this. Please, she begged. Just 5 minutes. I hesitated. I should just shut the door. But curiosity won. Fine. 5 minutes. She let out a relieved breath and stepped inside. And for a moment, she actually looked genuine. Like she was about to take responsibility for everything. Then she opened her mouth. You need to give me one more chance. I blinked. One more chance. For what? To fix this, she said desperately. I need your help right now. I don't have anyone else. And suddenly, I realized what this was really about. She wasn't here to apologize. She wasn't here because she regretted anything. She was here because she needed something from me. Again. I exhaled, stepping back. No. Her face crumpled. What? No, I repeated. I'm done, Laura. But I'm your sister. I gave her a sad smile. Yeah. And you've treated me like a bank, not a sibling. Tears filled her eyes. You can't do this to me. I didn't do anything to you, I said. I just stopped letting you take advantage of me. She stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Like it had never even occurred to her that I might actually walk away. Then she whispered, I don't know what I'm going to do. And for a brief second, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I thought about all the years of entitlement, the insults, the manipulation, and I knew this was the right choice. You'll figure it out, I said gently. Then I opened the door, and after a long moment, Laura walked out. And this time, I knew she wasn't coming back. I expected things to be quiet after Laura left. I thought that maybe, just maybe, she'd take the hint and finally start figuring things out for herself. Maybe she'd even learn something from this whole mess. I was wrong. Because Laura? Laura doesn't do consequences. She doesn't accept responsibility. She finds a way to make it someone else's problem. And this time, that someone was Mom and Dad. The call from MOM. It had been almost a week since the baby shower disaster, and honestly, I was feeling great. I'd spent my days organizing the nursery, folding tiny baby clothes, and finally enjoying some peace. No texts, no drama, no Laura. Until my phone rang. Mom. I sighed, debating whether to answer. But a small part of me hoped that maybe, just maybe, she was calling to say, you were right. Laura was out of line. I'm sorry for trying to guilt you. I should have known better. I answered with a cautious, hey, Mom. There was a deep sigh on the other end, the kind of sigh that meant I am about to ask you for something you don't want to do. Then, Emily, you need to fix this. I closed my eyes. Here we go. Fix what, exactly? Your sister is struggling, Mom said, her voice heavy with disapproval. She hasn't left her room in days. She's barely eating. She's heartbroken over what happened. I rubbed my temple. Mom, Laura isn't heartbroken. She's angry because she didn't get what she wanted. That's not the same thing. She feels abandoned, Mom continued, ignoring me. She's not used to this. She's not used to being held accountable, I corrected. And frankly, that's not my problem. Mom's voice turned sharper. Emily, I didn't raise you to be so cold. I almost laughed. Cold? I had paid for Laura's life for years. I had bent over backwards to make things easier for her. And now, the first time I was setting a boundary, I was the problem. I took a slow breath. Mom, I love you. But I'm not fixing this. Laura needs to grow up. Silence. Then, Mom let out another deep sigh. I was hoping you wouldn't force me to do this. I frowned. Do what? Mom hesitated. Then she dropped the bombshell. She's moving in with us. I almost dropped my phone. She what? She needs help, Emily, Mom said in her suffering mother voice. She has nowhere else to go. Mom, she lives with you already. Well, yes, Mom admitted. But now she's really moving in. She quit her apartment lease. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Wait, hold on. She had an apartment? Mom hesitated. Oh, this was interesting. I had been under the impression that Laura still lived at home full-time, that she was struggling so much that she couldn't afford to move out. But no, apparently, she had an apartment this whole time, which meant that all those times she had begged me for money, I have nowhere else to turn, Emily. She had been lying. Something inside me went ice cold. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. She had her own place. She could afford rent. But instead of taking responsibility, she just, decided it would be easier to run back to you and Dad. She's not like you, Emily, Mom snapped. She's never been good with responsibility. And whose fault is that? I shot back. Silence. Then, more weak excuses. We can't just let her fail. Mom, she's already failing, I said. You're just making sure she never has to deal with it. She's family, Mom said, as if that solved everything. I exhaled. And so am I. Another pause. Then, the real reason for the call. She needs a little help getting back on her feet, Mom said carefully. Just for a few months. Maybe you could. No. I didn't even let her finish. Emily. No, Mom. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter, I said. But that never seems to matter, does it? Mom went quiet. And in that silence, something inside me clicked. I had spent my whole life watching Laura get away with everything. Watching Mom and Dad make excuses for her, shield her from consequences, clean up every mess she made. And suddenly, I wasn't just mad at Laura. I was mad at them. For enabling her. For teaching her that she never had to grow up. For letting me carry all the weight while she got to live without a care in the world. And now? They were still doing it. Only this time? I wasn't playing along. I let out a slow breath. Mom, if you and Dad want to take care of Laura for the rest of your lives, go for it. But I'm done. So don't call me asking for money. Don't call me asking me to fix things. Don't call me about Laura at all. Emily, I love you, Mom, I said, my voice softer now. But I'm not doing this anymore. Then, before she could argue, I hung up. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Laura's final attempt. The next few weeks were eerily quiet. I expected more texts, more calls, something. But no, Laura was silent. Mom was silent. Even Dad, who usually played peacemaker, didn't call. It was almost too easy. Then, just as I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, they had finally let it go, Laura showed up at my house. Again. Only this time, she wasn't alone. She brought Dad. I stood in my doorway, staring at them, a sinking feeling in my stomach. Emily, Dad said, his voice tired. Can we come in? I folded my arms. Why? Laura sniffled dramatically. I need to talk to you. Please. She looked different this time. Not angry. Not smug. But desperate. I sighed. Fine. 5 minutes. I stepped aside, letting them in. And in those 5 minutes, Laura dropped the biggest bombshell yet. Laura stood in my living room, eyes red, her usual arrogance gone. She wasn't smirking. She wasn't glaring. She just looked small. Dad shifted awkwardly beside her, glancing at me like he wasn't sure how I'd react to whatever was about to come next. I folded my arms. All right. You have 5 minutes. Laura took a shaky breath. Emily. I messed up. I arched an eyebrow. You think? Dad shot me a look, silently asking me to be gentle, but I wasn't about to make this easy. Laura clasped her hands together. I don't know what to do. I don't have any money, I don't have a job, I don't even have my apartment anymore. I thought Mom and Dad would help, but Dad cleared his throat. We did help. We let her move in. But, that's not really working out. I almost laughed. Of course it wasn't. Laura was used to living off of other people without giving anything back. But our parents? They were old. They didn't have the patience for her the way they used to. I turned to Dad. Let me guess, she sleeps all day, doesn't clean, doesn't contribute? He looked uncomfortable. Well, I wouldn't put it like that. Laura's head snapped toward him. Wait, so that's why you're here? Because they don't want me either. Dad sighed. Laura, Oh my gosh, she whispered. I thought we were fixing things. I thought you were helping me. I let out a slow breath. Laura, what do you want? She turned back to me, desperation flickering in her eyes. I need your help. I just need a little money to get back on my feet. Just for a couple of months. I swear, I'll find a job and... No. She blinked. What? I met her gaze evenly. No, Laura. I'm not giving you money. I'm not saving you. Tears welled up in her eyes. But I need you, Em. No, I said quietly. You need to learn how to take care of yourself. Her bottom lip trembled. You don't understand. I don't have anything. I tilted my head. And whose fault is that? She stared at me, and for the first time I saw it. Realization. She knew. She knew this was all because of her own choices, and she hated it. I took a step closer. I'm not doing this to hurt you, Laura. But for the first time in your life, you're alone. No one's coming to rescue you. Not me. Not Mom and Dad. So you have 2 choices, figure it out or keep running in circles. A tear slid down her cheek. I don't know how. Then learn, I said softly. Silence. For a moment I thought she might scream. Or argue. Or fight. But she didn't. She just stood there, staring at the floor, as if the weight of the world had finally landed on her shoulders. Dad rubbed his face. Well, that's that, I suppose. I turned to him. What happens now? He let out a heavy sigh. She'll have to figure it out. She can stay with us for a little while longer, but she needs to start contributing. If she doesn't, I'll leave, Laura mumbled. Dad looked surprised. What? She swallowed hard. I'll figure something out. I don't know what yet, but I can't keep living like this. And just like that, the moment finally came. Laura had hit rock bottom. She was standing at the edge of her old life, looking out at the reality she had avoided for years. And for the first time, she realized no one was going to catch her if she fell. She had to climb out herself. And as much as I wanted to believe her, as much as I hoped she would change, I knew better. So I nodded. I wish you the best, Laura. She hesitated. That's it. That's it. And with that, she turned and walked out. Epilogue, a new beginning. A few weeks passed. Then a month. Laura stayed quiet. No calls. No texts. Nothing. Mom called once, saying Laura had gotten a job at a retail store. She wasn't thrilled about it, but she was managing. I didn't ask for more details. Because the truth? I had moved on. I had a baby to prepare for. A husband who supported me. A life free of my sister's endless demands. And for the first time in years, I felt light. One afternoon, as I was folding baby clothes, a text popped up from an unknown number. Laura, I'm sorry for everything. I stared at it for a long moment. I didn't know if she meant it. I didn't know if she had really changed. But I did know one thing: I wasn't going back. So I smiled, put my phone down, and went back to my life.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. *.